I'm back again. After an unplanned hiatus with my account acting weird, a lot of my videos got lost for a while that I was working on. My account almost got deleted. It was a big mess, but I am back. I meant to be back 5 months ago, and then that all that stuff happened. Now I'm here, and I did take a little bit of extra time because I was just kind of feeling a little down from just all of my work getting kind of thrown all over the place due to like technical difficulties. But I decided to come back today because my youngest sister asked for an episode. So I'm going to dedicate this episode to her, and I hope she really enjoys it. We're right into the cut. First, you're probably wondering why I did that soundbite. Well, that's because today's movie is Disney's Descendants. And that also brings me to the first gripe with this movie is sometimes they'll play that soundbite and the scene just doesn't end. It keeps going and you feel like you shouldn't be there. It's kind of like an after credit scene, but if the credits don't roll and you're just kind of sitting there like, well, you know, I don't really need to be here for this.
I'm rotten to the core.
Now, after seeing that scene, I hope you can tell that I am not going to rate this like I do average other movies. This movie was a made for TV, supposed to be outlandish and odd, just kind of. There's a lot of cringy moments, and they're put there on purpose because that's how this type of movie works. I mean, if you watched your High School Musical, Teen Beach Movie, Camp Rock, they all fit into the same category where it's supposed to be teenagers being odd with like random musical numbers just kind of thrown at you. So it's not filmed like your average everyday regular movie. So like I'm not gonna rate it like I would a Spider-Man film or a Batman film or like The Godfather. Nothing like that. This is so I'm going to go a whole lot easier. So for those of you who hate this movie, don't judge. So as you know, I usually kick off my videos starting with the negatives of the film because I love to end on a high note, and I usually save the positives for the last half. Now, for the parts I didn't really care for about this, from a point of view, I'm trying to put myself where I would be the intended audience. And my first gripe is as a musical, your music should be really good. And their songs have this tendency to have like a really good moment in the song, followed by a really bad moment. The biggest example of this I can give you is their version of Be Our Guest. I can't actually play the song for you. I'm afraid YouTube will take it down. They're more strict with music than they are with teens themselves. So yeah, but if you ever get a chance, look up Descendants, Disney's Descendants, Be Our Guest. Like I said, and it starts off with a really good beat. It's building up to something good. I was like, okay, this isn't too bad, and then it hits you with a rap moment that just completely kills it. I just think it doesn't fit well. Maybe because I know the old song too well, and I mean, if you love this song, congratulations, that's you. Not my cup of tea. But we are going to now move on to the next thing I didn't really love about this. Now, the next thing I have a bit of a problem with is the world building. So, some of the world building I just feels a bit odd. Like, how did everybody in all these Disney stories, like 90% of them, had kids at the same time? It's one of those crazy things where it's like, okay, like they're all the same age or at least the same age range, and it throws me off because like even the villains and the heroes they all had kids all at once. Like it would have been neat to see like and like I haven't noticed really a whole lot of like siblings. They all had one kid, which seems to be a main thing. Like you think you know like the evil queen, she only has one kid. I know later down the road they kind of fix this issue, but I'm talking this film right here. Like if this was the only one, yeah, everybody had kids all at once at the same time. Villains, heroes, you name it. Everybody's the same age, and I feel like maybe we should have diversitized that a little bit. Had like some in a few grades below, had some in a few grades above. But like I said, all of them are the same age, which does kind of throw you off. I know it's supposed to be, like I said, it's not supposed to make sense, and I'm thinking too much into this. It's just one of those things that I gotta say, like I can't stay silent about. Another thing is, how did the villains stay alive? Because last I checked, every single one of them died in a terrible way, except maybe Jafar. Jafar got turned into a genie and then put into a lamp, and that lamp got punted like million miles down the road. Everybody else died horribly. Like Ursula got impaled through the heart. She's not in this film. She's in the next one, but like, yeah, she's dead. Um, the evil queen had a boulder dropped on her head. The They shouldn't be alive, and I know they're just like, oh, they got banished. But if you go back and watch the actual classic Disney movies that are being represented here, like, yeah, no, none of those people should be alive. Most of them died horribly. Maybe Cruella Deville and Jafar, they can be alive, but everybody else, I mean, have you seen some of those Disney deaths? They're not pretty. Last complaint, but certainly not least, is the cringe factor of this movie. There were a ton of movies where I cringed pretty bad. I think if you had, like I said, for the audience this is meant for, I don't think they would cringe a lot because they didn't. Because, I grew up, my little sister loved this film. My other little sister loved this film. They thought it was great. But me, whenever I would watch it, and I still, whenever I watched it recently to make this video, oh, I couldn't help but just cringe on the inside and even a little bit on the out. I was like, oh, that's a real thing that they just said right there. Holy crap. But it is one thing, like I said, I am not the intended audience, and it's very evident by like what I've complained about and what I've talked about. It's very evidently so that I was not the intended audience for this film, and I should not be thinking this hard into it. But again, if you do watch this movie, especially at like my age, prepare to cringe really hard. All right, now that I'm done with the negatives, I think I should talk about some of the positives with this film. And surprisingly, like for me, I found some pretty good positives. For one thing, I love the aesthetic of this movie, that it keeps it straightforward. You feel like you are on stage watching a play happening around you. And I know that might sound odd, but I think that's why the fake effects don't I don't mind fake, like the fake-ish bad effects of the film, like when especially whenever they do like some CGI or something like that. But I think it just helps with the whole general aesthetic, like the more over the top fake acting and stuff. It helps blend it in a lot more because tries to make it feel like you are watching a high school level play on the stage itself. I'm not sure if that's the aesthetic they were going for, but that's the aesthetic they landed, and I think they did great with it if that was their intent here. If it wasn't, I'm bad if that's an insult, but overall, I do think the cheesier effects, the cheesier acting, and the cheesier stage design, and the film, the actual like cinematography of it makes you feel like you are on a stage of a high school play, and it makes you feel a little bit more immersed. And that I got to shout out because it's pretty good. Because like the effects are cheesy, but they don't ever even come close to like making you think like, oh, that's bad. Because I mean, you're not. It's not like watching Mortal Kombat Annihilation whenever these two fellas popped out and started fighting. So another positive I got with this movie is, of course, the plot of it. Honestly, the plot's not too bad. Showing kids that kids with bad parents aren't always bad and sometimes just misunderstood, or they feel like they have to act out to get their parents' attention. Honestly, a pretty good message overall, and I think that the movie does an okay job of handling it. I mean, like I said, this movie's not too heavy, but it presents a problem and it presents a solution in a very easy way for young kids to understand. All right, so now I get to talk about my favorite part of this film, and that is the actual villains, like their parents themselves. That was my like the top thing for me. because I mean their acting is great. I think they kind of know that this is a silly, goofy movie, and so they just slam everything they got into there. Like for instance, my favorite thing is how Cruella Deville just constantly brags about how she's got like the baby puppy that she's wearing a dead baby puppy. And she brags about it the whole time. Now that's evil, but like I don't know, it's a bit dark, especially for this movie. But I thought it was funny as crap.
Oh, but they didn't get baby. They didn't get the. They didn't get the baby.
Another thing is like I said, just how wild they are, and just the chemistry the adults all have together. Like they all very much act like they've been roommates for a very long time, which in universe they have been, and I just think is absolutely incredible for all of them. Like I said, they're over the top, they're wacky, and I think they land their performances very well, and I think they're the best performances within the entire film itself. All right, so now it's time for my final thoughts on the film. And overall, if I was ranking this as a regular movie, I would give it a 5 out of 10, which is just it's average. It is what it is. But if I'm ranking it as a fan of this film, as someone who this like would be made for, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. Because, like I said, some of the songs fall off, which does take away from it. But I do think the plot's very fun, and it's a very fun movie, and has a very high positive spirit throughout the beginning to the end. I do think there are some high points and some low points, but overall, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, if this I was the intended fan base. If I'm a regular movie guy looking for something different, like more of a high end Hollywood film or something, then yeah, 5 out of 10. I probably wouldn't watch this movie. If you're a fan of movies like High School Musical, Teen Beach Movie, this movie is 1000% for you. So overall, not too bad. So have a great evening, night, or morning, everyone. And if you are on the toilet, it's time to wipe. I'm Roman Ritchie, and this has been a Random Ritchie review.